In this video, I'm going to review this Bateson PT66 triple axle tilt bed trailer. I found that there's a lack of information on these on YouTube, and if you're like me, before you buy anything, you like to do some proper research, so that's why I thought I'd make this video. Bateson make a range of hydraulic tilt bed trailers in their PT range, and I assume PT stands for pneumatic tilt. The range starts with the PT32, which is an 11-foot trailer or 3.4 metres with a single axle. Then you have the PT44, which is a 14-foot bed or 4.5 metre with twin axles. Then you get the PT56, which is a 16-foot bed or 5 metre with triple axles. And then next up is the PT66, which I've got here, which is 18 foot or 5.66 metre, again with triple axles. The PT66 is also available as an enclosed version. And then the largest in the range is the PT76, which has a 20 foot bed or 6.25 metres. So before I bought this, I had a 3.5 tonne recovery truck, but I was struggling with the limited payloads. And actually before that, I had another Bateson PT trailer. I had the PT56, which is 2 foot shorter than this. So when I decided to go back to a trailer, there was no doubt what to buy. My Bateson PT56 towed just so well, but I wanted something that little bit longer to take vans. So I purchased this PT66 brand new. So the reason why I bought one of these is I know how well they tow, and they're very well made. They're also very good value. I like the versatility of a tailboard rather than individual ramps, and I like that they're filled in the middle, so it's a very versatile trailer. They're also built very well with a 4mm thick galvanised steel body, so you've got no worries about strapping down onto this. This PT66 weighs only 935 kilos, which is quite a surprise because it looks and feels much heavier. But anyway, this has got a payload of 2,565 kilos. And what I like about the Bateson design is when you tilt it, all 3 axles stay on the ground, so it's a lot more stable when you're loading it. So let's tilt it up. At the front here, you've got a pair of offset hinge latches to release. And then here we've got the hydraulic pump, and it pumps on both the downstroke and upstroke, so there aren't too many pumps to do, and that's it. And then the rear of the body lays flat on the ground to take the weight. And as you can see, all 3 axles stay on the ground because it's pivoted on the rear axle there, which you might just be able to see in there. And while we're under here, we can see we've got the spare wheel, and that's held down when the body's pushing on here, and this pivots up like that to get your spare wheel out. And this uses torsion beam axles, which are much quieter and more comfortable than leaf springs. So these trailers come with either the option of a tailboard or individual ramps, and if you choose the ramps, they slide in down there. And there's no cost, you choose either the tailboard or the ramps. I much prefer the tailboard. It's more flexible, easier, quicker, probably safer as well, but it's great if you're loading plant or garden machinery or other sorts of equipment. The only downside of a tailboard, of course, is you can't have a longer vehicle on the trailer and allow it to overhang, because that's going to get in your way. However, some people have made up another bar which allows the tailboard to lay at sort of an angle like that, but this trailer's long enough where I don't think I'll ever need that. So let's drop this down and load a vehicle. As you can see, the linch pins are held with these little steel wires so you won't lose them. You can also lift out the upright post here, and this support arm will pivot out the way if you want a completely clear deck when loading something wide. I've also added these rubber washers. They're a standard size washer that you can buy on Amazon. Added them there and there on both sides. It just stops any metal on metal contact, which just keeps it extra quiet when you're driving. And then obviously you've got to remember to lock the body down and put the R-clip in. And the same on the other side. So when it comes to strapping down your vehicle or equipment, there's just loads of anchoring points along the top and along the sides. So whether you're using straps like that with a double claw, you've got lots of points along the side to strap down to. Or if you're using the over-tie straps like that with a single claw, you've got a row of 3 anchoring points on either side. So next, let's just look at the electrics and the lights. So this has got 13-pin electrics with a very convenient holder there, so your cabling is held out the way when you're storing it or hitching up the trailer. And the wiring is protected in this plastic flexible conduit, which is quite nice. And obviously I wouldn't be towing this trailer with a Tesla, but my normal tow vehicle, a Land Rover Discovery, spends more time in the garage than it does on the road. So you've got a standard breakaway cable, which I'm not going to attach just now. You've got your brakes here, which I can take off there. And then a very nice heavy duty jockey wheel, which is ribbed as well. Then in terms of lighting, you've got white LED marker lights at the front, 3 reflectors with LED marker lights along the side, flexible LED marker lights at the back, which they've mounted up inside, which is a bit unusual. But they are nice and flexible, so won't get damaged. And then as you can see, this has got LED rear lights. So my previous Bateson PT56 had conventional old lights, and the LED lights were always an upgrade, as they were on this. But I purchased this trailer in August 2024, and this came with LED lights, and I didn't pay for the upgrade. So I'm not sure whether they then became standard or whether the supplying dealer just spec this trailer with the LED lights. But they are nice lights, so I'll just show you the operation of these in all the different modes. So there's the side lights, the indicators, the brake lights, the reversing lights, and the fog lights. So new Bateson trailers are now coming with this plastic number plate mounting frame, which I'm finding very awkward to use because I change my plates frequently. But if you're not doing that, then it's not going to be an issue at all. But previously on Bateson trailers, you just got a bit of bent metal either side, and you could then bend your plate and hook it between the two, and it worked just fine. But now they're using these more modern plastic frames, and you've got a lip or 2 little tags at the bottom, so your plate is held in at the bottom like that. And then you've got these spun loaded bits to hold the top. But it's actually more awkward than it looks. It doesn't help that it's recessed in this lip and it's quite low. So I'm finding the best way to do it is hook it in there and then lift it up like that and get it past my finger, and then bend it and do the other side the same like that. And obviously it's only taken a few seconds, but I'm getting used to this now. But another way you thought you should be able to do it is push against the spring-loaded bits and then drop it in at the bottom. Oh, it works. Most of the time I can't do that. It just won't work like that. There's some other plastic at the back which catches. But anyway, I've just proved it does work there. So anyway, maybe it's not as bad as I'm finding. This is their winch bracket, which again is an option, but I think most dealers spec this on the larger trailers anyway, and my dealer did it. They supplied this as standard. I normally do have a winch on here. I fitted a winch myself, and I've had to drill extra holes in this plate to mount the winch plate, but it's a sturdy bit of metal. Bateson also have the option to supply a hand winch or an electric winch, which has a battery box underneath, so you can keep the 12-volt battery on the trailer, which I didn't know they were doing that. I don't think they were when I bought this trailer, because I would have taken that option if I'd have seen it. One of the things I like about this trailer is it's quiet, and when you're driving along, it doesn't rattle. There's no tie-down hooks to rattle, and this tailboard doesn't rattle either. I have improved this a little bit, because I have put those rubber washers in there to stop any vibration, and I have bushed that with a bit of copper pipe to take up any slack there, so that made it even quieter. Not that it was really an issue in the first place, but I really don't like rattling behind me while I'm driving. Most in the motor trade favour the Brian James T-Transporter trailer, and I suspect it's probably the most popular car transporter trailer in the UK. However, in this spec and size, the Bateson PT66 is £1,810 plus VAT cheaper than the equivalent Brian James T-Transporter. I also think the Bateson is quieter because I often see those Brian James trailers go past and they make quite a rattle when they're empty. So this has 10-inch wheels and the tyres are 195/55 R10C, and Bateson are fitting Trail Runner WD Velocity tyres, which are made in China. But to be honest, it's very difficult to find trailer tyres in the UK which aren't made in China. So this is a standard spec trailer, and I didn't specify the options on this. Obviously you can choose whether you want a tailboard or the ramps. So this came with the LED lights. I'm not sure whether they're standard now or an option. And it did come with the winch bracket, and that's because the supplying dealer always puts the winch bracket on anyway. But Bateson do provide a whole host of other accessories for these trailers. You can add drop-down sides to these, and as you can see, there's the box section there for the post to drop into. The PT66 is the largest trailer in the range that can have sides. There's also the option of a headboard and a front wheel chock. You can also have a wider bed, increasing the width from 2.1 metres to 2.3 metres. They also offer side loading ramps. I used to have a pair of these that I used on my PT56 for loading Renault Twizzes crossways, but unfortunately I sold them thinking I wasn't going back to a trailer again. You can also specify alloy wheels, those other winch options I mentioned earlier, and other extras which are on their website. Bateson also provides some small ramp extensions if you're using this tailboard when you're loading very low vehicles. And this little Hyundai i10 is also very low at the front, and that rubber did just slightly rub as I was loading it. But for larger vehicles, in fact normal sized vehicles as well, it's not an issue at all and everything is loaded just fine. However, if you do load low vehicles, rather than buying their metal ramp extensions, I've just cut up some timber, which this is the offcut actually, the bits of timber are in my tow vehicle which is in the garage. So I've got 2 lengths of timber at only about 1.5 foot long, and I've not needed to use them yet, but if you just lay that timber down, that does enough just to lift the front up and it will load very low vehicles just fine. I've also added this strip of gripper tape on both sides. The standard doesn't have it, and this is just to assist loading it in wet weather, but it's probably not needed. These raised holes provide traction on the tyres, but this stuff is quite cheap. I got it on Amazon. I'll put the link in the video description below actually. It's nice and wide stuff, so it's the same width as a standard tyre, and it was very easy to apply. And then I just used a blade, Stanley blade, just to cut out the holes afterwards, but I did warm it up with a heat gun around those just to assist cutting it, and it only took about 30 minutes to apply. I fitted the additional gripper tape because I did struggle once loading a vehicle with a flat tyre. So that was our own car that got a puncture on the roadside, and I went out to pick the car up and one of the rear tyres was utterly flat. And as we were loading it, it was a front wheel drive car, the front driving tyres got to about there and they were starting to spin and lose traction because the rear tyre wouldn't get over the tailboard, and it was only because it was utterly flat. So normally a winch would be used for that, but I didn't have the winch fitted then. So in that case, we just pushed the car up and it was fine. It was just slipping a bit on the front, but that gripper tape would have solved that situation as well. So overall, I'm really pleased with this trailer. They're built well, and you can put plant on this, not just cars. So they're very flexible and significantly cheaper than the competition. In fact, they're not much more money than the sort of cheaper Polish stuff. I like the fact that all 3 axles stay on the ground when you're loading it, and it tows really well as well. The largest vehicle I've had on here so far is a Ford Transit L2. And I find the tailboard much easier to use and quicker than using individual ramps. But of course, you've got that option if that's what you prefer. Bateson trailers have a dealer network, and I bought mine from Cork Farms in Staffordshire, even though I'm in Oxfordshire, and they delivered it to me free of charge, and they were very reasonable with their pricing. So as you may have noticed, I've dented the frame slightly here already, which is a shame because the trailer was only about a week old when I did that. But this is such a large trailer, it's very difficult to move. Unless it's on smooth tarmac like it is now, or concrete, you can't move this on your own. But I've bought a tow ball for the forklift, and I was turning it around on the forklift because the yard at the back is rough ground and it will just not manoeuvre on rough ground unless you've got machinery to move it. And I didn't realise the other fork was pushing in on the frame here, and I was trying to turn the trailer, and I was looking backwards while I was doing it, and I didn't realise the other fork was pushing into the frame, and it bent it even though this is double skin here. But fortunately it hasn't done any permanent damage. The handle for the jockey wheel still turns just, but it is getting a bit tight there. But it's such a shame I damaged this when it was so new. But completely my fault, and there's absolutely no issues with the build quality of these trailers at all. So I hope you found that video useful. I'm not affiliated with Bateson trailers at all. I'm just a happy customer sharing the information to allow people to choose the right trailer for them. Anyway, if you found this video useful, please do click the thumbs up. That really does help. Do subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next video.